So, Manqoba, the president has reaffirmed the step-aside rule.
Indeed, Shahan. In fact, when President Cyril Ramaphosa was addressing those delegates at this particular Congress, he did reaffirm the party's position when it comes to leaders that are facing criminal charges or that have been convicted by the court, saying that those leaders would need to step aside. In fact, he said that party members and leaders of the movement who have been implicated should do the right thing and ensure that they follow this rule of the party before any measures are taken against them. And he did call on those delegates to ensure that when they do make their elections, we do know that there are quite a number of conferences that are taking place this year, including the SACP as well as COSATU conference and the ANC conference later this year. He says that they should ensure that the leaders that they elect into those positions are leaders that will take these organizations forward and people that will not put themselves first before those organizations. And so his message today to those delegates was that they need to ensure that they always toe the political line and to ensure that the leaders that they elect into those positions are people that are corrupt-free and people that will ensure that the parties, in fact, do move forward, as I have alluded to that particular fact. But on Bathabile Dlamini, he says that party processes will still need to be followed. In fact, he says that the NEC over the weekend had come up with a resolution, in fact, for party or national party officials to meet with Bathabile Dlamini to discuss the issue of the charges that she's facing or the conviction that she's facing and whether or not she will step aside. So he says that after that meeting, that is when the party will then make a decision on what steps to follow next. But take a listen to what he had to say on this particular issue.
If, for instance, leaders are found to have been involved in malfeasance, have been charged, found guilty, the step-aside culture and the step-aside policy must apply. Whether it's in the ANC, whether it's in your unions, whether it's in COSATU, wherever it is, we must become a progressive Congress movement that upholds good values, progressive and revolutionary values. And that is when, comrades, our national democratic revolution will really succeed.
The decision of the NEC was that the officials are going to meet with Bathabile Dlamini, and that is a process. We are a process-driven organization, whether you like it or not. So we are going to meet with her, and we are going to have discussions, and I know the media wants to see action now and immediately, but we are process-driven and we are going to meet her and we are going to have a discussion with her.
Okay. Manqoba, we have 90,000 Pfizer vaccine vials actually expiring in South Africa tomorrow. They're going to be destroyed eventually. The president speaking today about vaccine hesitancy, which is a major concern for his government.
Indeed, Shahan. In fact, he says that it's quite problematic that many of the people in the country are simply not heeding the call to vaccinate. He says that the fact that there's only over 40% of the population that has been vaccinated is quite a huge concern, given the fact that we're still in the midst of the pandemic and that there's still the different variants of this particular virus that are still going around. So he's really called on South Africans to heed that call and called mostly on the young people and the workers themselves to actually get vaccinated, saying that this will protect them from potential severe illness as well as death. But take a listen to what he had to say.
Even in countries like ours that have ample vaccine supplies and stocks, vaccine hesitancy is a growing problem. We are finding that having reached 43% of people who have been vaccinated fully, many are now reluctant to lift us to the level where we want to be of 70%, where we would now have what we call herd immunity or population immunity. It is a concern to us that having had a very good run up to where we are, about 43%, now we are beginning to slow down, particularly amongst the young people.
All right, Manqoba, the President speaking today at the National Union of Mineworkers Congress, a very important discussion, I'm guessing, by that union, because they are one of the largest unions in the country. What did he have to say to them, though?
Well, Sean, the President saying that, in fact, he chuckled with journalists saying that Noom was his home. And he said that it was important for him to be there, given that he was one of the founders of this particular union. You recall that in 1982, he was the General Secretary of the National Union of Mineworkers. And he really called on workers to unite, saying that the purpose of, formulating or forming unions like the National Union of Mineworkers was simply to get workers to get united. And so he says workers stand a better chance of raising their social ills, of taking a stand against some of the issues if they stand united. So he really also called on the National Union of Mineworkers to also ensure that it continues to grow its numbers. He says that when he was, back in the days, back in the 80s, the National Union of Mineworkers, in fact, was one of the most progressive unions in the world. And so he says that there's a lot of work that the union needs to put in terms of regaining its position. We do know that it's no longer the biggest union in COSATU. So he says that there's still a lot of work that the union will have to do. And of course, saying that as we head to the Congress, the members of the National Union of Mineworkers must ensure that they elect those leaders within COSATU and also the ANC to ensure that those structures are in fact strengthened and that there is a process of renewal in all of those structures.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Our reporter Manqoba Mchunu.